Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at the surprisingly grounded financial habits of someone who's, well, undeniably mastered the world of wealth, Warren Buffett.
Forget the stock picks for a moment, right? We're doing a deep dive into 20 specific frugal living habits that Buffett has, consistently shown.
It really makes you think.
It does. It begs the question, how does a person with that much wealth approach everyday spending? And maybe more importantly, what can the rest of us learn from it?
Right. You kind of picture a billionaire surrounded by, I don't know, sheer extravagance. But Buffett's lifestyle is like remarkably, well, down to earth. So our mission in this deep dive is to unpack these habits, try to understand the financial wisdom behind them, and see, which of these principles you might find valuable for your own financial journey.
And we're drawing this from basically years of observation of his practices. It's pretty consistent stuff.
Okay, let's start with where it all begins, literally. His house.
Yeah, the house thing is amazing. What's truly remarkable here isn't just that he bought his Omaha home way back in 1958 for, like, $31,500.
Which was still money back then, but yeah.
Right, but the kicker is he still lives there. He's famously called it one of his best investments.
One of his best investments. A house.
Think about that, not some sprawling estate, but a functional family home for over 60 years.
Wow.
By resisting that constant urge to upgrade, he avoided tying up huge amounts of capital in something that, doesn't necessarily generate income like his stocks do.
Right. It's not primarily an appreciating asset in the same way.
Exactly. Imagine the compounding returns he generated on the difference between that modest home and some giant mansion over all that time.
It completely reframes what we think of as a good investment, doesn't it?
It really does.
It's about, like, lasting value and meeting your actual needs, not just the status of constant upgrades.
And that frees up capital for, well, the kind of investments he's actually famous for.
Makes sense. Speaking of getting around, let's talk cars. You won't see Buffett chasing the latest automotive trends.
No, definitely not. He's known for holding on to his cars for years and years. Only makes a change when it's really necessary.
So what's he driving now? Still the old one.
Well, his most recent reported one was a used Cadillac XTS. Bought used.
Used. Even the Cadillac.
Yep. Cars are just a classic example of a rapidly depreciating asset, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. Drive it off the lot and boom.
Exactly. In the first few years alone, a new car can lose, 20–30% of its value? Sometimes more.
Easily.
So by holding on to his cars, Buffett just avoids this massive wealth erosion, frees up those funds for investments that actually grow.
It makes you really consider the true cost of that new car smell, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
Where could that money be working for you instead?
Exactly. It challenges that sort of ingrained idea that you always need the newest model. Okay, now let's consider something we all do daily. Eating. Even Buffett's morning routine has a mindful financial angle.
Yeah, this one's fascinating. It's how even these small routine expenses are approached with, real awareness. Buffett has famously been known to grab breakfast at McDonald's.
Right, I've heard that.
And get this, the amount he spends can apparently fluctuate slightly based on how the market's doing that morning.
Seriously, he checks his stocks, then decides between the $2.95 option and the $3.17 option.
Something like that. It sounds quirky, I know, but it's just this insightful example of being conscious of every single dollar going out, no matter how small.
It shows a consistent awareness, yeah?
A mindset.
Right. We're talking about saving maybe $1 or $2 on a breakfast sandwich, but it illustrates a much broader principle, doesn't it?
Totally. Being mindful of where your money is going at all levels.
It's about not being wasteful, really, in any part of your spending. And speaking of avoiding financial waste, let's discuss something Buffett feels very strongly about: credit card debt.
Oh, yeah. This is absolutely core to his financial philosophy. He's famously likened credit card debt to a kind of financial cancer.
Wow, that's potent.
It is. His strong belief is that if you're managing your finances wisely, you simply don't need to rely on that kind of high-interest debt.
Because the interest just eats you alive.
Exactly. The interest you pay on credit cards can seriously undermine any financial progress you're making. It's all about living within your means and avoiding those huge, often unnecessary interest charges.
That's a powerful analogy, and it really underscores the danger, right? That compounding interest working against you instead of for you.
Precisely.
Okay, shifting gears a bit, something more visible. Personal appearance. You won't find Buffett prioritizing, designer labels.
Nope. His focus seems purely on practicality. He opts for simple, functional clothing.
Just gets the job done.
Pretty much. The aim is for his clothes to serve their purpose, comfortably and appropriately. There's zero emphasis on making some big fashion statement or chasing trends and expensive brands.
Just another way he minimizes unnecessary spending, isn't it?
It is, and it kind of reinforces the idea that your value isn't tied to the label on your shirt.
It's a refreshing contrast to a world that often equates status with brand names, that's for sure. And this pragmatic approach, it extends to his relationship with technology too.
It certainly does. Buffett isn't the guy rushing out to buy every new gadget that hits a market.
Famously had a flip phone for ages, right?
For a very long time. Only relatively recently transitioned to an iPhone. Apparently, Tim Cook finally convinced him, or maybe just gave him one.
Huh. But the point is, his priority is on the function, the necessity of the tech.
Not the hype, not the latest features, just because they're there. It makes you think, how often do we upgrade our phones or computers for really minimal actual benefit?
It's a good reminder. We don't always need the absolute latest thing to live a productive and, fulfilling life. It's easy to get caught in that upgrade cycle.
Too true.
And this mindful approach to tech is part of a broader pattern of not splurging on material possessions in general.
Precisely. You won't find him indulging in the typical trappings of extreme wealth.
Like what?
Well, no collections of fancy Rolex watches, no mega yachts sailing the Med, no sprawling vacation villas dotted across the globe.
Things you might kind of expect.
Right. His sense of contentment just seems to come from other areas, not from accumulating high-end material goods. Makes you wonder what truly provides lasting satisfaction,
It really does. And for Buffett, one of those sources of enrichment seems very clear. His deep commitment to reading.
Oh, this is fundamental, absolutely key to his routine. He reportedly dedicates like 5 to 6 hours every single day to reading.
5 or 6 hours. Wow.
Yeah. For him, it's a continuous, crucial form of learning, investing in himself.
You said that right. The best investment is in yourself.
That's the famous quote. And think about it, how staying informed, continuously learning can impact your own field, your own financial decisions. It's powerful.
That level of dedication to just learning, absorbing information, it's remarkable, especially today with all the distractions.
Isn't it?
And this sort of thoughtful approach seems to permeate even his family interactions, like how he gives gifts.
Yeah, reports suggest that his gifts to family members tend to be, well, thoughtful and practical.
Not just expensive.
Right. Focusing on utility and meaning, rather than just being extravagant or pricey for the sake of it. It feels like a more personal way of showing you care, maybe, instead of just relying on a hefty price tag.
It's a more considered approach, isn't it?
Yeah.
It speaks to the value he places on the relationship itself, perhaps.
Could be.
And this careful consideration, it extends to even tiny everyday transactions. There's that famous story about coupons.
Ah, yes. The legendary McDonald's coupon anecdote. With Bill Gates, no less.
That's the one. Tell us.
Well, the story goes they were grabbing lunch, and Buffett pulls out coupons to pay.
With Bill Gates sitting right there.
Apparently so. It just perfectly encapsulates his ingrained frugality. It doesn't matter how wealthy he is or who he's with.
So it's not about needing to save the $1.50.
No. It's the principle. The principle of not paying more than you absolutely have to. It's like a deeply wired mindset of value.
It's almost hard to picture, yet it's so telling. It really highlights that it's about the principle. Don't overpay if you don't have to.
Exactly.
And that principle is key to another crucial habit, keeping his expenses low, even as his income just, went stratospheric.
This is what people often call beating lifestyle inflation, and it's a really crucial concept.
Explain that a bit more. Lifestyle inflation.
Sure. It's basically the tendency for your spending to increase as your income grows. Think of it like a balloon expanding as you pump more air into it. More money comes in, more money goes out on nicer cars, bigger houses, more stuff.
We all kind of feel that pressure, right?
We do. But Buffett has consciously resisted this expansion. He's maintained relatively stable spending habits despite his extraordinary wealth. It's a powerful lesson in just controlling your outgoings.
It really underscores that it's not just about how much you earn, is it? It's how much you keep.
That's the ball game.
Controlling those expenses is fundamental to long-term financial health. And that control extends to how he travels. You don't often hear about Warren Buffett jetting around on private jets for personal trips, right? Not regularly, anyway.
That's right. He's known to regularly use commercial flights. Just hops on a plane, like everyone else.
Even though he could obviously afford anything.
Oh, easily. He even famously referred to his own company's private jet back in the day as the indefensible.
The indefensible.
Yeah, highlighting his very practical, almost skeptical view on even massive expenditures like that. It just demonstrates a real awareness of the costs involved and, well, a preference for more economical options in his personal life.
It shows a very grounded perspective, doesn't it? Opting for practicality over maybe the perceived convenience or, the luxury of private travel.
Seems like it. And this contentment, it seems to extend to his choice of environment and activities too. He doesn't seem driven by a need for constant novelty or like opulent experiences.
Not chasing the next big thrill.
No, he appears quite content with the familiarity and routine of his hometown Omaha. You hear stories of him frequenting local spots like Dairy Queen.
Getting a blizzard.
Maybe. And just taking walks around his neighborhood. Simple things. It suggests a real appreciation for, well, the simple things in life and a lack of need for constant extravagant experiences.
It's a stark contrast to the lifestyles we often associate with the ultra-wealthy, isn't it?
It really is.
It reinforces this whole theme of functionality and contentment over the constant pursuit of luxury. And this down-to-earth approach, apparently it's even reflected in his professional environment, his office.
Yeah, his office setup is surprisingly minimalist. We're talking like a basic desk, a standard phone, stacks of papers.
No mahogany paneling and gold tabs.
Not by the sounds of it. It's a workspace designed for thinking and working, not for showing off. It's kind of the opposite of what you might expect from the headquarters of a massive investment firm like Berkshire Hathaway. It really emphasizes that what matters most are the ideas, the analysis, not the fancy surroundings. Maybe consider how decluttering your own workspace, physical or digital, might improve focus on financial goals. Just a thought.
Good point. It's a powerful reminder that substance truly outweighs style. And, okay, when he does make purchases, his decision-making is firmly rooted in a long-term perspective.
Yeah, he isn't driven by impulse buys, not just grabbing things off the shelf. His focus is consistently on the long-term value.
What does that mean in practice?
Well, he considers whether an item will continue to be useful or maybe retain its worth over time, rather than just fulfilling some momentary desire. It's about thinking beyond that immediate gratification.
That's a really valuable filter, actually, to apply to any significant purchase we might consider. Encourages us to think about lasting utility, not just the immediate appeal.
Definitely.
And speaking of thinking carefully before spending, he reportedly uses this fascinating mental exercise.
Yeah.
Opportunity cost.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
He's known to practice mental math to calculate the opportunity cost of his spending.
Which is?
Essentially, it's the what else could I have done with that money factor. He mentally projects what those funds could potentially grow into if he invested them instead over the long term.
So it's not just the cost now, it's the cost later.
Precisely. When Buffett considers, say, a $100 purchase, he's not just seeing $100 leaving his pocket. He's mentally projecting what that $100 could become in 10, 20, or 30 years with consistent compounding.
So that $100 gadget could represent thousands in lost future wealth.
Potentially, yeah. That $100 fancy meal could realistically become thousands down the line if invested wisely. It reframes the decision.
That's a really concrete and applicable technique, isn't it? Before making a purchase, thinking about that potential future growth. It's a powerful way to frame spending choices.
Very powerful.
Now, his frugality isn't just about his own life. Apparently, it extended to how he raises kids, too.
Yeah, his philosophy on raising his children is quite direct. There's a famous quote, give them enough money to do anything, but not enough to do nothing.
Okay, unpack that.
Oh,
Enough to do anything, not enough to do nothing.
It means he believed in providing opportunities, education, support, but also in fostering independence. The understanding that they need to earn their own way, find their own paths.
Not just live off the family fortune.
Exactly. It's about instilling a sense of responsibility and trying to avoid that sense of entitlement, which can have significant long-term implications for people.
It's a really important long-term perspective on wealth, isn't it? And its impact on future generations.
Very much so.
And his primary focus in building all that wealth in the first place has always been through acquiring assets that actually generate value.
Exactly. His core strategy, his whole career, has been focused on buying businesses, investing in stocks, things that are designed to appreciate and generate more wealth over time.
Rather than
Accumulating personal luxuries that typically just depreciate, like fancy cars or boats or whatever. It's a fundamental difference in mindset.
Yeah.
Building wealth versus simply displaying it.
It's a core distinction, yeah.
Yeah.
One is focused on growth and creation, the other more on consumption. And part of his ability to maintain this long-term focus might be linked to his choice of where to live. He doesn't reside in, the typical high-cost, high-profile cities.
That's a great point. His decision to live in Omaha, Nebraska, not exactly a major global financial hub like New York or a celebrity hotspot like LA, is quite telling, isn't it?
Why Omaha, do you think?
Well, it likely provides a more peaceful environment, probably more conducive to focused thinking, and obviously a lower overall cost of living. It allows him to concentrate on his work, his core principles, maybe without the constant social pressures of a more extravagant lifestyle you might find elsewhere.
Minimizes those external pressures to keep up with the Joneses, even if the Joneses are also billionaires.
Something like that. It helps maintain focus.
It suggests that by being somewhat removed from those high-pressure environments, he can maintain a greater focus on his own intrinsic values and goals. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And finally, while his personal life is marked by this intense frugality, his approach to his vast wealth has this huge philanthropic dimension.
Absolutely. This is crucial. Buffett has famously pledged to donate over 99% of his wealth to philanthropic causes, primarily through the Gates Foundation and foundations set up by his children.
Over 99%.
It's staggering. And this is perhaps the ultimate expression of his values, right? Focusing on his lasting legacy, the positive impact he can have on the world.
Rather than just amassing ever more stuff.
Exactly. Rather than material possessions, it brings a really powerful perspective to the whole concept of wealth, doesn't it?
It truly does. It shifts the focus entirely from accumulation to impact. Wow. Okay, so those are the main 20. But beyond these, there are a few other smaller, but still kind of illustrative frugal practices that people have noted over the years.
Yeah, little things that fit the pattern, like his tendency to seek out undervalued stocks. I mean, that's his job, but it's applying that same value-seeking principle to his core investments.
Looking for bargains.
Looking for bargains, exactly. Also, being really diligent about avoiding hidden fees in financial transactions, reading the fine print.
Those little fees add up.
They sure do. And even, apparently, being willing to handle his own small repairs when feasible. It just further demonstrates this hands-on, cost-conscious approach to pretty much all aspects of his financial life.
So, okay, as we wrap up this deep dive into the frugal living habits of Warren Buffett, what would you say is the central insight here, the main takeaway for you?
For me, I think the key takeaway is that building substantial lasting wealth isn't really about extravagant spending or constantly chasing the latest trends. It's just not. Buffett's life offers this really compelling illustration that a thoughtful, value-driven mindset combined with a consistent commitment to avoiding unnecessary expenses. That's absolutely foundational. Foundational for achieving long-term financial success and security.
And for you, our listener, the actionable insight here is that frugality, it isn't about deprivation,
Yeah.
It's not about being cheap in a negative way.
No, not at all.
It's really about making conscious, informed decisions with your money. It's a skill, it's a discipline, and honestly, it's a very powerful tool that anyone can develop, right? Regardless of where you're starting from financially.
Absolutely. Which kind of leads to a final thought, maybe a question for you listening.
Go for it.
Which of Warren Buffett's habits that we talked about today resonated most with you? Which one made you kind of sit up and think, huh?
Yeah. Which one sticks?
And maybe more importantly, how might incorporating even just one or two of these principles into your own life, how could that potentially reshape your financial outlook, your long-term financial well-being?
It's definitely worth reflecting on, isn't it? Where you might be able to adopt just a little bit of that Buffett mindset in your own daily life.
Worth a thought.